What's up, everybody? Oh, it's a beautiful day. I know I've been shooting inside all this time, but it was so hot that I could never come out and shoot. But today is kind of a beautiful day. However, this is just the first 4 minutes, because the rest of the video you're going to see at a totally different place where I shot the entire video. However, the first 5 minutes didn't have any audio, and so I'm here again shooting the first 5 minutes of the video. So yeah, it's going to be in the jungle, by the way. So today we're going to be doing Mars in the 6th house. So since you already know what's Mars in the 6th house, I'm not going to waste time. Otherwise, I'm going to have to kick your ass. If you don't know, you should know by now. What is the 6th house? 6th house is the house of your enemies, meaning your competitors. Not the enemies like, you know, they're doing drive-by in front of your house. Yes, that too, if you live in a hood. But it really is your competitors out in workplace. When you're an athlete, you're competing against somebody. That's your competition, okay? And 6th house, and let me actually explain to you why that is. Because remember, 1st house is a house when you're born. 2nd house is when you're growing up and meeting your family and friends, who's your mom, who's your dad, who's your uncle. 3rd house is when you're spending time with your siblings, your close by friends. And then 4th and 5th house is your education, when you're receiving the education, when you're graduating. And then 6th house is when you finally graduate and you come into a bad economy where you don't have any jobs. But 6th house is literally the house of battleground, where you come and compete for your job, for all the stakes in life that you have, okay? And 6th house, literally, guys, this is a very important placement for Mars, okay, which I'll explain to you. But 6th house, as I said, represents competitors, represents diseases, represents debts that you get from financial institutions, credit card debt, car loans, student loans. Oh man, that's nasty. Student loans, if you got that, ooh, I'm so sorry. It represents loans for secured loans, mortgage loans, okay? 6th house represents your mother's relatives, especially your mother's siblings, because 6th house is 3rd from the 4th house. 4th house is your mom, represents your mom, and so 3rd from it is your siblings of your mother. So 6th house represents fighting. 6th house, okay, here's the thing about Mars you gotta know. Mars is a soldier. So a soldier's relation is in a battleground. And most of you might think that Mars does very well in the 10th house because it's excelled in the 10th house. No, the Mars belongs in the 6th house. Why the 6th house? Because 6th house is a battleground for everybody in everybody's chart. Why? Because from the ascendant you're born. 2nd house, you getting acquainted with your family, who's your uncle, aunt, mom, dad, sister. Then you find your siblings. 3rd house, growing up with siblings. 4th house represents mother's nourishment, what she taught you, what she tells you. 5th house is when you're getting your academic education, when you graduate from high school, when you graduate from college. But what happens after you graduate from college? You leave your parents behind and you come into the battleground, because now you got to find a job and support yourself, as most of them are actually being supported by their mama still. So I think the 6th house is really the 5th house right now because of the economy. But 6th house is where you come out and look for a job. You're out there competing with everybody. You're out there saying, oh, hire me, please. I've got the best degree in the world. Okay? So this is where Mars belongs. It's a battleground. And Mars is a soldier with a weapon. And he wants to just annihilate everybody. So this is why here Mars just wants to win, and it does win. And in retrospect, this is more of a argumentative kind of a battle. Like Mars becomes very argumentative in this placement. So and here Mars is what? A soldier. Soldier fights for what? Justice. A criminal fights to broaden his criminal empire, where police is the soldier who is battling him. So here Mars fights for injustice. So what do you think that represents? A lawyer. These are the lawyers who will go out and fight for injustice. And yes, there are bad lawyers, but this placement of Mars is like, okay, somebody who is a mother, who's a good mother, and who's trying to gain custody of her child because the father's really bad negligence and all of these things. And Mars in the 6th house, lawyer says, I will do this. I will fight for you. I will get you your kid. And they do. But let's say if Mars is debilitated, We will discuss that, okay? But right now it represents settlements, divorce settlements, okay? So if you're trying to win some sort of a divorce settlement and you have Mars in the 6th house, which is not debilitated, you're gonna win that divorce settlement. This is a perfect placement for an athlete, because a athlete does what? He competes. You don't get athletes just performing and just winning a medal. Like Olympics, you're competing against a different country, somebody else. So this represents an athlete, somebody who's out there to use his physical body to fight a battle. A lawyer uses his mind and his speech to win a battle. But it's a battle. So anytime you're in a competitive business, anytime you're out there facing opponents every day in your work life, this is a best placement for you. But however, there's one negative aspect with this placement, especially with the 6th house, is that this person can acquire a lot of debt, because Mars is the significator of debt. However, like I said, Mars is out there to win. So what happens with these people, even though they have debt, they're able to pay it off. But if you watch my debt video where I tell you that anytime you run through a dasha of a planet that is sitting in the 6th house, is a 6th house lord, or Mars dasha, or dasha where a planet is aspecting the 6th house, you acquire debt. But again, nobody has debt for life unless that situation is being activated constantly. But people have debt, people then pay it off. But here's one thing about with Mars's situation. Mars, if he doesn't have an influence of intelligence and knowledge, what ends up happening with this Mars, especially when your Mars transiting over your birth Mars and you have like a debt, that means you may file for bankruptcy to get rid of that debt, because Mars doesn't really know how to use his brain to go out there and find a way to, you know, like I told you, like academically he's not there. He just wants to take action. Now if he can beat up a banker, hell, we all would love that, huh? Now when Mars is debilitated, let's say in this house, what happens is instead of fighting for justice, you could be facing justice. Like here, people, like especially if you had this Mars and you go back at your adolescence, especially when between 10 to 18, you could have been in a very wrong crowd, because 6th house also represents your friends. Like 11th house represents your professional friends, like your network of friends, okay? But 6th house really represents your friends that you go out and hang out with every day, okay? So Mars here can really make you go into the wrong crowd, okay? And if you have this placement, please do not even think once for breaking the law, because you will face justice, okay? And Mars's dignity is about, hey, I did something wrong, I'm gonna face justice. So Mars energy is still there. So that means if you do something wrong, your Mars energy will say, no, I did something wrong, I'm gonna face justice. I need to face justice. So you can actually, you know, go to jail, because Mars is looking at the 12th house of jails, 12th house of isolation, 12th house of asylums, hospitals, foreign lands. So obviously this can either take you to foreign lands, especially in Mars's Antra Dasha and Dasha, especially I've seen in Rahu and Mars's period and Antra period, where people go into these scenarios, okay? But if you have debilitated Mars, please just try to control yourself. Try not to go into the wrong company of people, okay? Especially, let's say Mars is transiting over the 6th house, you may come across and Mars is debilitated, okay, and is transiting over your birth Mars. Be careful of what kind of people are coming into your life at that time, okay? And since Mars aspects the 9th house from its 4th aspect, these people really like to write their own laws in religion. They want to believe in their own kind of set of rules. Like they may follow a Hindu religion, but within that Hindu religion, they'll have their own set of rules that, okay, I'm not going to celebrate anything except Diwali. I just have believed that. And that's what happens, okay? And they can get into arguments with their gurus, teachers, especially father, because father is one of the teachers, okay? So it becomes very argumentative. If it's debilitated, man, it's like physical fighting with the father sometimes. Mars looks at the 7th house of, you know, jails and isolation, foreign lands, charity, losses, okay? So this can, if it's not debilitated and neutral and excelled, you can fight off your diseases. Mars in this house does very well in fighting diseases. So if you have cancer, you're one of those people who came over cancer and beat that. You can go to foreign lands, okay, in order to, as a competitor, as a competition. All these athlete Olympians, okay, they might have Mars in their 6th house, so they're competing outside of their homeland. Okay, now when Mars is looking at the ascendant, here is, again, it's actually a good thing because physical self is the health, and so Mars protects you from being harmed. Now the careers that you can see through this is obviously attorneys, lawyer, I mean same thing, policemen, athletes, soldiers, surgeons and doctors, okay, because Mars is that, you know, surgeon, and it's sitting in the house of diseases looking at the house of hospital, so obviously it signifies that as well, okay. And depending upon if Mars has an aspect or a conjunction with another planet, it simply might mean then being you're going to have to face a lot of competition in relation to that. So because Mars in the 6th house can represent anything, even bankers have it, even artists have Mars in the 6th house, but it becomes a very competitive field for them, and they love it actually, you know. So this is one of the most important placement for Mars, more than even the 10th house, because this is their home, this is their battleground. The battleground belongs to a soldier. Okay, so guys, this was my interpretation of Mars in the 6th house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe above. And if you want to know more about astrology and your own horoscope, check out my link below. Check out my book there, because when you get the book, I will send you a link to look at your own chart, your KP system, your Vedic chart, everything. All right, see ya.